Hello, we spoke about the shape of an aura, and in this video clip I would like to zoom in more in the energy of trees, the radiance from the trunk of the tree, and what it also means, what are the practical implications. Well, it's not difficult to perceive the trunk radiance. In fact, when we practice now to feel, to perceive the floor and the soil radiance, it's the same thing with the tree, and the only difference is the floor radiance is more vertical, and when you perceive the energy from the trunk of the tree, it's more horizontal. Meaning you can feel this with your hands and even more easily with your whole body. First, when the tree also has this 0, 1, 2, 3 layer composition, you can say, when we want to perceive the ether energy. And the 0 layer is quite close to the trunk. Sometimes you can even see roots growing into the soil when you're close to the tree. Most of the time the 0 layer has a kind of bond, the width of where the roots grow into the soil. And then, and this is quite interesting, the 3rd layer is as far or further in summer, and when there is a lot of rain, then the branches grow, or we call it the canopy, the crown. So in this picture you can see the crown or the canopy, and that the 3rd layer is just as far as it. But in fact it's a measure for the health of the tree. When the tree is healthy, the 3rd layer should be as far as the canopy or further. What we perceive in winter, the energy is getting less, it declines, and it can be about 80% of the crown projection. So here you see already you have a kind of tool of perceiving the health of a tree, even when it's winter and there are no leaves, where you can distinguish something about the health. This is also huge practical implications for the whole ecosystem. Because when a tree is healthy and this 3rd layer is wider than the crown, it means when neighboring trees are connected by their radiances with each other. Also meaning they are exchanging energy and information with each other, helping each other. Also, when one is getting weaker, the other one is supporting. 1 and 1 is 3. The whole is more than the sum of its parts. There's cooperation in such a system. And also, when you see in those zones where there are overlapping energies from the radiances, you have a higher complexity. It's like other plants or weeds feel there's a kind of energy, what they prefer, and they start growing there. And the last thing is that this is a closed system. So when you are in a beech forest or in an oak forest, it has a beech frequency, a beech tone. And each organism that is not resonating or doesn't feel comfortable in this beech vibe or in this beech music, well, it doesn't go in, it goes backwards. So in this way, this system has its own immune system. In contradiction to a system where there are no tree radiances overlapping, what you can see on the right. Such a system is open for invaders. And there is no support, it's not 1 and 1 is 3, but there you can really feel survival of the fittest and really competition for nutrients or moisture. And this is a completely different world. So now you see why it's so important to measure, to perceive this radiance. You can say something about how the system is connecting. And the first thing in ECOintention, when we balance a huge system, well, you can see that the radiances are getting bigger and the trees are connecting them and they are restoring the contact, meaning you're also supporting self-healing and self-organization. Here you see again the picture we showed before, the shape of the aura, and what I told you, there is this ether body, that's the first 3 layers, but it's also connected with the astral body. You can perceive at the 4th, the 5th and the 6th layer in springtime quite easily. A little less, but you can look for it in summer. And also what we learned, that the energy is not static, but it is flowing. And it can flow in 2 directions. It can from down to up or up to down. It doesn't matter. And this makes us to distinguish 2 types of trees. We can call this the solar tree or the lunar tree. This is a discovery of Maya Koistra. She was in fact one of my first students and she took this on, so I learned this from her. And she distinguishes between a solar tree and a lunar tree, and also in the character of the trees. A solar tree is more connected with the sun, and in the first 3 layers under the canopy, the energy is moving from up to down. But she also says the solar trees are more extrovert in their character. They're more open for contact and also more open for other animals living on the tree, around it, on the trunk, in the leaves, etc. In opposite to the lunar tree, which is, for instance, a beech tree, there the energy is moving from the earth, from down to up under the canopy. These are more introvert, there are a cooler atmosphere, and well, the lunar tree doesn't invite so many tree animals on its trunk, especially when there is sunlight directly on the trunk. It can even die getting sunburn. But now the energy is not flowing in one direction in a lunar or a solar tree. When you study the astral body, it is the 4th and the 5th and the 6th layer, that's flowing in the opposite direction. So you have to be very careful in sensing this direction of the flow and also counting the layer where you are. And again, well, there's more to tell about the story, because not all beech are lunar tree and not all oak tree are solar trees. If you have a forest with only beech, well, there needs to be a balance, and then you will perceive the sum of the beech trees will play solar tree. It's also the same in an oak forest. There's not only solar trees, there are also oaks who playing the lunar part. Therefore, it's quite complicated, really clearly sensing the energies, but that's not so important. It's important that you know there is a flow of energy. You can perceive this flow, and you can perceive this flow also in the transition zones, the best, in the layers in the trunk of the tree. So, and furthermore, what I will finish with, the energy is mostly flowing through the dead part of the trunk. When you study the trunk of a tree, the outer zones are the living part where the nutrients are transported. But the inside part of the inner part of the trunk is dead, and that is where the energy is flowing. Well, go through a forest and you can have a look even with your eye, try to perceive the radiance, but furthermore I hope you have a lot of fun in the forest, and there are beautiful trees to discover with huge, you can connect with them, have a talk with them, and even when you're in the United States, don't forget to visit the sequoias, the largest living beings on this planet, even being more than 3,000 years old, and you will connect with them, you can perceive the radiance, but more you connect with their inner wisdom, because you can really have a nice conversation with them. But that's another video clip. Thank you for watching.